So yeah, like Ken said, I'm John Sloat. I work in the product marketing department at Atlassian and focusing on JIRA. And I want to talk to you guys today about finding the elusive issue, but more specifically, harnessing the power of the quick search box. So the top right corner of every JIRA screen. So the agenda for the talk, I'm going to start off with going over getting some feedback there, I think. We'll go through the 3 types of search that are available in JIRA. And we'll see some examples of quick search in action. And finally, we'll see, once you evaluate that quick search query, some of the new JQL functions introduced in JIRA 4.3 that you can add on to make it a little bit more honed. So you've got 3 ways to search in JIRA. This is the simple search screen. This has been around since JIRA's inception. You've got that left-hand column that lets you specify issue fields by clicking them. And as the name implies, it's a very simple way to search. It's very intuitive, and it's a great way for new users of JIRA to get into searching. Then about 2 years ago, we introduced advanced search mode, which is also known as JQL. And it's a lot more complex and lets you really pinpoint the issues. And then sitting in between those two is the quick search box. And we'll get into that. But so JQL, just to talk a little bit about JQL, it's an SQL-like syntax. It's very complex. You can write very complex filters and do things that aren't possible in simple search. On the other end of the spectrum, it's very easy to get started because of the autocomplete dropdown that you see there. So it's easy for new users to get into. And then we've got quick search, which is also very powerful, but for different reasons, and that's what we'll get into. So what can quick search do? I fear that a lot of people that use JIRA are like I was until about 3 or 4 months ago, and they never really use quick search to its full potential. So its functionality is broken down basically into 3 categories. First, you've got jump to issues, where you just input an issue key, press enter, and it takes you directly to that issue. So here we're going to nerd-1. And then it also works obviously as a free text search, where you just input a string and it returns issues that contain that string. But the most often overlooked and also the most powerful functionality that quick search offers is the smart search shorthand notation. So you can see an example here. And it lets you pen up really complex queries quickly. So we'll see some examples of that in a second. But the reason you should use it is because it's going to save you time. And it's going to do that because it's everywhere. It's on every screen in JIRA in the top right corner. So whenever the inspiration strikes to create a query, you don't have to leave the page. Just hit / to jump up to the quick search box and start typing. And it's just going to take less keystrokes because of the shorthand notation. So let's take a look at some examples. Jump up to the quick search box by pressing /. We'll type my open bugs. And as soon as I hit enter, JIRA evaluates that query and turns it into an equivalent JQL function. Let's take a look at how it evaluated those terms. So when it recognized the keyword my, it translated that into assignee equals current user. When it saw open, it recognized that as a workflow status and searched for issues in that status. And when it saw bugs, it searched for that issue type. Let's check out one more example. r:me, unresolved nerd. When that evaluates, we see that r: specifies the reporter of the issue, and me works much in the same way that my does. It sets it to current user. Recognized an issue resolution and the project key, nerd. So we'll do one more example, but before we go to that, we'll go through. There's only 6 shorthand notations that you need to know, so it's really quick to pick up. We've got my and me, which we saw, and there are 4 more notations that let you specify the reporter, the component, and the effects and fixed versions of issues. So let's check out an example with specifying the fixed version. So search for my unresolved bugs. with a fixed version that contains the word sprint somewhere in the title. And this is new functionality to JIRA 4.3 as well. So we've seen these before. Don't need to go through that again. But when we specified that the fixed version was star sprint star, it evaluates the stars as wildcards, and then when it converts it to JQL, it fills that out to contain every possible version that has that matches that pattern. So that's a neat bit of functionality that we added. So back to the reason why you're using quick search, it's going to save you time because you're typing fewer characters. So in the first example, we typed 12 characters, and it turned it into a 62-character JQL query. And that's 20% of the JQL required to type the quick search. For the second example, we went from 20 to 71, and that's 28%. And for the previous example, we went from 31 to 157, which is again 20%. So in these examples, at least, you're saving between 70 and 80% of the typing time that it would take to write the same query in JQL. So if I had to sum up the talk so far on this takeaway slide here, it would be, I would say that using JIRA's quick search, you should be using that as a quick conduit to create complex JQL filters really quickly. And if you're the type of JIRA user that does write a bunch of ad hoc queries, then it's going to add up and save you, over time, it's going to save you a lot of time. And then if you guys want to check out the documentation, there's a bit.ly link there. So after we evaluate our quick search query, it pops up the equivalent JQL, and we may want to add on to that with some JQL functions that aren't yet supported in quick search that we can't represent with shorthand notation. So I'm going to show you three new functions that we introduced in JIRA 4.3 that'll let you get a little bit more precise. So here we're searching for any issue where the status was at one point in progress and is currently open. So the key thing to note here is the was operator that lets you search through the issue's change history and see any status that it has been in the past or that it hasn't been in. We also introduced some relative date functions. In the example, we searched for issues that were updated after the beginning of the current month. And there are equivalent functions for day, week, month, and year. And finally, we introduced some relative version functions. So in the example, we're searching for, or we're specifying that the fixed version is the earliest unreleased version of the Angry Nerds project. So it's the version that's going to be released next. It's next in the queue to be released. And then there's the equivalent function for specifying the version that was just released in the project. The nice thing about these is that they update every time you release a version. So, so you just set it and put it on your dashboard, and then it'll automatically update whenever your project does. And here's a link to JQL documentation. And that is it. Questions?